Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And I've brought another fantastic guest on today. But before we get to that, please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the show, hit the notification bell, and go check out the Indiegogo for the Oswald Chronicles. And without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Nandor Fox Schaffer.
You got
All
it.
right, cool. I was, yeah, thank you. I didn't want to mess up your name. So, all right, so all right, all right. I don't even know where to begin because you've already done a couple of Kickstarters, which is cool,
Right.
successfully. So you've done two before this one successfully.
Right.
All
Right.
right, cool. All right, but before we get to that, I want to get to this question, right? So, um, when you were younger, obviously you had your first comic, whatever it was. We all had that
hmm
first comic that brought us in. But there was another comic though that you eventually picked up and read that inspired you to become a creator.
hmm
Now, what was that book for you?
That was, man. I'd say the most influential would probably be Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers run that he did. Really, the first um, arc in that, like the first six-issue series, where it was the new like Illuminati and the whole incursions and with them mind wiping Captain America. All the Infinity Stones are destroyed, and it was just such a and then I'm a big fan of Steve Epting too. So like I
Mm-hmm.
loved Steve Epting's art from like it's kind of like emerging like of kind of like my first comic and what inspired me, because what my first comic that I really started getting comics on a monthly basis was Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting's Captain America run. So um, of course, I was already drawn to New Avengers by the time that came around, and I'd already been reading and getting comics for a couple of years. So when Hickman's New Avengers came around, I was so excited to get art from Epting, work from him, but I also loved Hickman from his Fantastic Four run. So then when I read the first few issues, because I had to kind of catch up when it was coming out, I was completely blown away, and it it was just so well written and so damn smart. It was just so clever, and um, the drama and the stakes of it were always on the table and always there. The death of the multiverse, and like how are these and these characters are um, really questioning their own morality because they have to choose their world over another world. And it was just such a great story, and it just got better and better as it went along too. And what was also cool about that kind of ties into seasons, and this is something that came from Hickman's Fantastic Four run, was Hickman writes these long form, is a long form storyteller. And even though he has these kind of little stories, throughout that, kind of keep you interested, it's always in a larger framework. And that's something that seasons really is. It's 4 volumes, but each season is kind of its own story. But you get more out of it if you read each one. And by the time you get to the end, there are a lot of things that have happened that are kind of foreshadowed and that you're kind of having questions about. And then you'll get to the end and you'll be like, oh my gosh, like all these light bulbs hit. And that was
Mm-hmm.
something that I wanted to do with my own story. And I really got that from the way Hickman would write. And also like some of his other stuff, like East of West and Nightly News, his very first book. That was the Nightly News is kind of what taught me how to write a script, because I got I believe it was the fifth anniversary edition. It's this really big hardcover collection of oversized hardcover collection, and in the
Right.
back of it, it had Hickman's script for the first issue, and that's kind of how I, when I was figuring out how to write a comic book script, I would go to that to kind of see how it all is written out for the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, he really got me to consider writing comics and making comics and dreaming. That was the dream. And I saw his passion, and he has his own personal story with it that I learned about that really motivated me to want to do it. But I'd say it was kind of like the long answer to the question, but it really was kind of Hickman stuff, and especially the New Avengers run.
Mhm. No, that's awesome. I mean, I have uh, I have the omnibus somewhere.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's so good. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, because I have that. I picked up his Avengers run. The two
Hmm.
omnibuses. That. Well, what's funny is with that one, I didn't the first third I thought didn't work very well.
Okay.
But it gets but he picks up pace like right
Hmm.
after. It's just like, and
Yeah,
it goes from
right.
here to this baseline to like, and it takes off. So it's just like, okay, yeah, So yeah, I guess someone got a memo and he was like, okay, it's time to ramp it up. you know, but
Yeah.
his Avengers run was incredible. I really enjoyed that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Um, I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I've read, of course, I read older stuff, and
mhm,
I read like the Lee Kirby stuff, and I read some of the John Byrne stuff, and
mhm,
Watchmen and things like that. But what really, and I think it's because Hickman's still living and breathing, and he's still making
right,
comics, and he's still in the world. And
mhm,
I like to me, he really is kind of a needle in a haystack right now with the big
mhm,
two and with the publishers. Like I'm getting X-Men right now, and the only reason I'm getting X-Men is because of him.
right,
And I really believe he's one of the few people that um, not only like respects the legacy of these heroes, but really wants to have fun with them and put them in new directions and make it. I love the shared universe vibe that he tries to give everything to, because that's
mhm,
kind of what Marvel's always trying to be about, is making these characters really feel like you'll see them passing each other, and the way he's been making the X-Men feel like its own um, part of the Marvel universe, even like and to the forefront of the Marvel universe, has been really exciting to see. And it 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 just really got me excited to make comics, because I felt like a lot of the stuff I was reading, a lot of the stuff that was coming out, just wasn't what it used to be like, and I feel like a lot of it is quantity, over quality right now.
um, yeah, like I said, a little older than you. So for
Yeah.
me, my Jonathan Hickman was Frank Miller.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was his Daredevil run. So
Yeah.
that's I discovered that when I was about 10, well maybe 11, 12, and for me that's what did it for me. And then a little bit after that was Alan Moore on Swamp Thing.
Yes. Yeah. Alan
Yeah,
Moore Swamp Thing. I have read that, and that is amazing. I
yeah.
totally agree with you there. I discovered that about, I'd say, about like 4 or 5 years ago,
Mm,
and I was reading it. I rented it from the library, and I just saw that they're coming out with like a new Absolute edition
yeah.
of the his Swamp Thing, and so I really want to get those because I don't own them. So I was like, this is the time, because I actually just got uh, this year I picked up the Absolute Watchmen, and
Okay.
I love the slipcase and the oversized
Mm,
editions. Like I'm all for that. So I feel like when you know it's a classic, it's like you might as well try to get like the best version you can of that, because it
yeah.
is really timeless.
Yeah, I have the first one, and I think the second one comes out next week. So I'm
Awesome.
looking forward to that. Yeah, but yeah, those things are really nice to have. So Nandor, what? All right, obviously with seasons,
Hmm.
how many different are you working with one specific artist, or are
Yes,
you working with
yeah,
several? Okay.
yeah. Me and his Anthony Gonzalez Clark. It's just
Mm-hmm.
really just me and him. He's also the letterer for the book too. So so yeah, I do the story and the script, and the layouts as well, and
Mhm.
the character designs, and then I work with Anthony to really, execute it and make it all look, perfect
Right.
and the best it can be.
Okay, that's cool. Now, so okay, so that's interesting. So when you're like when you're writing your scripts, are you writing out a full script, or are you writing out like a Marvel style script where it's a loose description and then maybe you're doing something
It's
aside from?
it is a full script.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, as I've kept working with Anthony, I've been able to be a little more flexible with things. But when I wrote the first book, it was really really detailed, and I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to make sure that I had everything for the artist. And then when I started to build a relationship with Anthony, I started to know like what he actually needs from me, like not to be too crazy, Alan Moore detailed, and not also not to be so just not really care, or just like give him an outline. It's like I don't want to just give him an outline. I and I need it for myself too, because like I said, I do provide some of the layout. So I will physically sit down with a pencil to paper and lay out the page the way I think it needs to look, and
Mm-hmm.
the way the panels need to flow. And that really helps me write my script even better, because for me, I really want in the final product, they're gonna want to see the art, and the art is really the the attractiveness of the book and everything. So that needs to be really at the forefront. So anything I write, and what I try to do is make it as visually interesting and dynamic as I can. But I do like to have, you know, I do like to know, how each scene is going to play out with the dialogue and kind of the beat for beat of it, and that really helps me to have my part down, and to be able to construct it in such a way that it makes everything feel more cohesive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Now, I have a good idea what you're going to say for this next question, but
Yeah.
now, are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm definitely a plotter. I mean, like, yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm not another. I've heard this before in a different light, but
Mm-hmm.
like the architect, or like the gardener, and
Right.
the gardener just like plants the seed, and like we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you have the people that just know every single nook and cranny of their story, and I
Mm-hmm.
I like doing that. I prefer doing that. I am working on a new project right now, where I've kind of broken that mold a little bit, and it's kind of purposeful for the kind of story I'm trying to tell. But um, and I love the spontaneity of working with an artist, and kind of seeing what kind of lightning, and that we can kind of capture in a bottle, or however you would want to put it, because it makes things really exciting and interesting. But for seasons, I knew it was really important to have a end goal in mind, an end game in mind, and I really want people to be able to read the entire thing, and want to reread it, and have it be kind of this sort of, as much as I can make it a timeless piece, where people can look at it and always find something new as when they go back to it, because there's a lot of Easter eggs with each volume that kind of harken back to what's come before and what comes after. So there's a lot of detail, and really purposeful um, scenes, and parts of dialogue that I think it's kind of like what Hickman does, where you'll read a few issues, and you're like, what is he really trying to get at, or like how
Mm-hmm.
does this connect to this, and you're kind of confused a little bit, but by the time you get to the end, you're like, oh my gosh, like now I know what this is actually about, or like what that was for. And
Mm-hmm.
so with seasons, it really needed to be that way. And so I wanted to make sure that I had, everything down and everything ready so that when the reader, when they finish the entire story, um, they're not confused, and they feel, very satisfied with the whole experience that they've been given.
Okay, that's cool. Now, you before we came on the air, you were telling me about another project you had done called Lifeline.
Yeah.
We had 7 different artists working with you. Now I know working with an artist or with a group of artists like Herding Cats. So now, how did you do that? Did you like did you have the whole thing written and then dispense it to 7 different artists, or did you say, okay, let me save my sanity and I'll work with one artist at a time, get that one to finish, and then we'll move on to the next one? Or did you just
Yeah,
hand it out to
it
seven
really,
different?
yeah, it really was, kind of one artist at a time. I did have the entire story written out, but I wouldn't. I wanted to make sure, and every artist kind of had different availabilities. So I tried to find the one that was available the soonest, and then kind of planned it out that way. But um, it 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 was really interesting, and I'm kind of amazed that it actually worked out the way it did, because when I look back on the book, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud with what we were able to do, and that it actually uh, was made, and it feels like all of us were in one room together and we made it together. Like that's the way it feels, because I worked with someone in the Philippines, in the UK, and in California, um, in I think Brazil. Like I worked with all these
Mhm.
different people, and so
Right.
for it to feel that way, it was really really satisfying, and that was the whole point of it. But yeah, so I would work with one artist kind of at a time, and I would send them their chapter, and there are certain visual cues, like of course what the main character looked like as he was aging, but I wanted each artist to, you know, portray them the way they want, but also look at the previous chapter and go, okay, this is what he looks like when he's 30. So make him look like, if he's 45 here, make him look like kind of the natural extension of that. Um,
Right.
and also the main character in Lifeline, he gets a there's a moment where he gets this big kind of gash on his cheek, and it leaves a scar. And so from that chapter on, from chapter 2 all the way to chapter 6, I needed to make sure that each artist put the scar on the right cheek,
Mhm.
because I could say he just has a scar on his cheek, but always need to make sure, okay, it needs to be on that side. And then also
Mhm.
he always wore a particular watch that was kind of a memento from his mom that passed away. So the watch needed to look the same, and he always needed to be wearing it. So there were a few things, a few visual cues that I needed to make sure each artist really, didn't just glaze over. And there was a lot of artwork that would come back, and like maybe the scar was on the wrong cheek or something, and it's like, okay, wait, we got to like make this feel, and we can't miss those little minute details, because it actually is really important for the story and for the reader not to go, wait a second, I thought, make them question like where things are.
Mhm.
Um, but altogether, it really turned out to be amazing. And like I said, I got to meet a lot of great people, and I got to work with so many artists that I was wanting to work with, but I just didn't have, either I didn't feel like I had the story to fit their art, or they were committed to bigger projects, and so each chapter was a small project for them to take on. So it was like, you know, uh, like killing like seven birds with one stone, instead of just like two. So, but yeah, so it was
Mhm.
amazing.
No, that's cool. Now, each chapter, roughly about how many pages was each chapter?
They were like I think eight to 10 pages,
Okay.
around there.
Hmm.
So
No, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, I have a project I'm working on called 100 Artist Project,
oh yeah,
where yeah, where I want to work with 100 different artists. Yeah, and I'm gonna write like shorts for each one.
dang, that's insane, man.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm stupid. I just want to be insane. So, what's funny is I've gotten back. It's funny. I've done a couple of the stories so far, and
Hmm.
then and then I'm stuck on, and then I have, here's something for you. Try not to work with your friends. All right. I gave out a couple. These are people I know very well, and I,
Hmm.
I gave it to them. I said, "Here you go. and it's been a couple years and I'm still waiting. I'm like, bastards.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's never good, man. That breaks
Yeah, yeah.
friendships right there.
Well, I know them well
No,
enough that
I know what you mean. You know, it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like because they're your friend,
yeah.
they're like, oh, it's okay, man. Like I'll get to it. Like don't worry.
Uh,
You know?
yeah, but every time I see them, it allows me to break their chops.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's the one payoff that I get out of it. So,
That's awesome.
so let me ask you, man, what's the part of the process that you most enjoy? Like, what is it that you find most enjoyable in the process?
Yeah. Really, it has to be when when I really am in the thick of writing, and
Mm,
when I really um, feel like I'm on to something. You know, it's like you feel like you've discovered something that no one else has discovered, and it feels like a treasure that only you saw and only you see, and that you can bring forth, and like it's like a challenge. Like if I'm writing, if I'm trying to develop a scene, or I'm writing a really important emotional moment between a character and another character, trying to figure that out. It's like putting a puzzle together. You have all these pieces, and you're trying to find the right picture, and it is really challenging, but when you strike gold, and you get the diamond out of the rough, like it just brings this fulfillment where you're like, this is going to be good, and I always want to make sure, um, I never want the art, as the writer, like, you can be tempted to go, well, if it looks pretty, maybe my part's not as important as it needs to be. But I never want to like let myself off the hook. I always want to be like, no, like the story, the character, like none of this flash, none of this art matters if the story isn't good. Like it just
right.
won't matter. Like people are gonna look at it, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's pretty," and then they're gonna be like, "But I couldn't read it because it was," they'll just look through the pictures. It won't matter, and all
Mhm.
this work that you've done. I really want it to be great. I don't want people to look at it and go, "Well, that was okay," or "That was pretty good." Like I want it to stick with them, and um, the most fulfilling to me, the moments are, especially when people have read my work and they get back to me and they're like, man, that made me cry, or that really got me thinking about my life, or certain people, like with Lifeline, it has a it has a message about kind of getting older, and kind of realizing your own mortality, and asking the big questions of like, was my life actually worth it? And there are some people that got back to me, and they were like, this made me think of my dad, or my grandfather growing up, and the kind of person he was. And that always means a lot to me when I can strike at people's real life and their experiences, and make them feel like, oh, this is an authentic character. And with Seasons, uh, I really wanted to explore a lot of interesting themes, and really complex themes, kind of about good and evil, and identity, and uh, your own morality, really, too. And I wanted to ask myself a lot of complex questions and try to explore that and do research. And it's fulfilling when you finally um, decide on something. As a writer, you have all these options, and you're writing a page, and you're staring at the screen, page one, panel one, and you're like, how do I start this? And then
Mhm.
you figure it out, and it just feels like, when it feels right, there's no going back, and it's just incredible. Um, Kind of to tag on top of that, uh, if it wasn't that, it would be like, when I get a new page from
Mhm.
Anthony or any artist I work with, and they send me a page, and it's just better than I could have ever imagined. It really puts a smile on my face, and it reminds me like, this is why I'm doing this. Like this is what is important in my life, because you always have those doubts, you know, as an indie comics creator, someone, you feel like you're trying to stand out, and you're trying to um, get people to notice you, you know, to notice your work, and you want people to enjoy it, and you want to share it. So when you get those little reminders, like this is actually good, this is working, it really, you know, puts the drive back in you, and makes you want to keep going and not give up.
Hmm. No, that's awesome. I mean, going back to your point of
Mhm.
the writer trying to put his best foot forward to make sure that his work is just as good as the artist's work,
Yeah.
right? I mean, a book that always stands out for me, or a series, well, one series that always stands out for me is Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
For
he
sure.
worked. There are a number of fantastic artists in there, but there are some real pedestrian-looking artists in there.
Yeah.
You know, where it's his words
Hmm.
that make you want to read it. It's not the artwork that makes you want to look at it.
Yeah.
He has P. Craig Russell in there for issue 50, and that's incredible looking. And there's Charles Vest in there, and there's a few
Yeah.
other guys,
Right.
Sam Keith, and a few, and Dridgenberg, and a few other guys who are just incredible. But there's somewhere in the middle. There's like wow. I'm like,
Yeah, you're like, this is guy's a fill-in artist or something, right?
right, right. But they're there for 30 issues.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, come on. I'm like, Neil, you would just either he set it up so that he would always look good,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm like, you're telling me you couldn't get someone really good?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
but that for me, that's always the book that I can look back and I read I have the absolute editions,
Oh, cool. Cool.
right? And I must have gone through those things 3 or 4 times by this point.
Wow. Wow.
And they're beautiful to look at, but there
Mhm.
are sections where it's just like, why this artist? You know, you like, and I don't want to cast aspersions. All those guys are great. All those people are great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand? But it's just like, it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, Neil wanted to stand out here. He wanted to make sure it's all like
Yeah, I have those moments too where I'm like, wait, why did they marry that artist and writer? Like, especially if there's an artist you love, and then they're on this book, or like this character that you couldn't care less about, and you're like, oh crap, I guess I'm gonna have to buy that, you know, just because like the artist is on there. But yeah, I've seen that too, where you're reading a great series, and yeah, they like have this fill-in guy, and you're just like, oh man, like really, like it's
Mhm.
that's when you really see the writing, you know, really push through, and keep you going, and uh that's something I started to appreciate as I got older too. Like, you know, as a kid, it was all about the characters, and what they looked like, and the art. You know, I followed artists all the time, and always wanted their books. But as I got older, I started to remember names of the writers, and I started to go, well, what else has he written besides, you know, what else has this guy drawn? Um, and so it made me appreciate comic book writing like even more so.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So conversely to that question, what's the part of the process you least enjoy?
Editing, editing.
Gotcha.
That is
Mhm.
the worst, because yeah, because when I finish something, you know, I really do want to put it down, and I want to go, okay, this is done. You know, like, because you work so long on it, you put so much time on it. You know, there are some panels or some pages that have taken me literally, you know, maybe a few days to a week to write, because it's a
Mhm.
really important scene, or I'm just not quite getting it. And so when you feel like you finished it, um, you then you know, you don't want to go back there and try to like retread all of that. And so when I get done with a script, and then especially I always do like I do a run through again after I'm done with the script. Um, and then before we go to like, you know, print it and everything, I do another run through, and I make sure everything's right. But it's really tedious work, and um, it I have, thought about working with editors before, and I have some good writer friends that will look over my stuff and give me some good basic editing when it comes to grammar and sentence structure and things like that. Um, but and I appreciate all of that, and I love that. I love the art of writing and how the best way to form a sentence and what to reveal here. Is it too much exposition, all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, so like when I feel like I finished something, it's like I really do want to move on to the next thing. So always having to like go back and redo things, it just makes the process in the beginning feel like almost like a waste of time because you're changing everything, or you're changing a lot than what you originally had. But I'm starting to try to appreciate it more because in the end it's going to be better, but it's just that hurdle to jump over where you're like, okay, you have to look at this with fresh eyes, and you really have to be really honest with yourself and go, okay, this is actually bad, or this line doesn't work, and so you need to change it. So that's definitely difficult for me to enjoy, I would say.
Right. Yeah, it gets easier as you go on. One of the things, it's funny. I haven't read many books on writing, but one of the ones I have read and I really enjoyed and
Mhm.
appreciate was Stephen King's book on writing.
I've heard about that one. I need to
Yeah,
read it. I really need to
it's
read that.
it's a good book. What's funny is it's the only book from Stephen King I've ever read.
Yeah.
I've never read anything else,
Yeah.
but it's the only one I've read, and I really enjoyed it. But there's one thing that he wrote in there that I felt sang to me,
Mhm.
and he was like, that first pass, that first, your first draft,
Mhm.
that's for you. You put in whatever you want in that sucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go off on as many tangents as you want, but just understand on the second pass, you will be murdering your children. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the only thing. So it's just it says you have to go in there and because I'm a pantser.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't. I've done the plotter thing. I find it too restrictive for
Mm.
me.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. But what I do is, I just sit down and I'll just write and write and write and write and write and write, till I get to the end,
Mhm.
and then it's just a matter of editing. And I hearken it to my understanding is the thing I've heard was that it's like crafting silver.
Oh, okay.
The more you beat it, the purer it becomes.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, so that's how I look at my work. I beat it and beat it and beat it. The more I beat it, the better it gets. So, you know,
Yeah,
that,
I totally see that, and like I was saying, it'll get better, and you know that um, taking the time to edit things and to take out filler, it really does help your story, and it's just um, trying to reason yourself through it, but I have noticed because I wrote. Um, I've written both volumes of Seasons, and I wrote Lifeline, and then I've been writing this actually a couple new projects right now, and I've noticed that um, I'm liking what I'm writing more, and I think it's because, and then also when I look back on it, I'm like, no, that's actually really good. I'll think it's worse than it actually is when I go back and I'll look at it. And I'm like, actually, that works. Actually, that's pretty good. And I've noticed that I'm definitely a better writer now than I was like 4 years ago when I was writing the first volume for Seasons. I just, and there's some things I noticed in the first book that I wish I would have changed, or just some like ways I wrote things that to me my kind of my styles changed, or like my ear for it, has kind of gotten better. So that's really encouraging for me because I'm really seeing the progress, and me being a better writer makes me more excited because I know the more I put out, the more it's hopefully gonna get better, and people are gonna notice it more.
Yeah, I think in prose writing, I don't know if you write in prose. In prose writing, they say you have at least 1 million bad words in you.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, so bang out those million.
Yeah.
Uh, and they say for comics, it actually says 1,000 bad pages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Dang.
yeah, so
That's like all my books that I'm going to make for the next, next like 5 years.
well, but just think about it. Year six,
Yeah,
that's going
right.
to be a hell of a book. Year
Yeah.
six, but it's growth. It's growth. I mean, my
Yeah. Oh yeah.
philosophy, my philosophy of writing is that today I will do my best to be a better writer than I was yesterday,
Hmm.
and tomorrow I will do my best to be a writer than I am today.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that's the only thing we can do, and I only compete with myself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's really your own standard you can really work with. You shouldn't look at the professionals, or you shouldn't, and you really shouldn't look at people that you think are worse than you. You should just
right.
be like, is this better than what I've written before? And when you can honestly, say that, that's when you know that you're really onto something and that you're growing as a creator.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can say as far as like looking at other creators,
Hmm.
the professionals, people you look up to, the only thing you can ever, I've always felt is try to write to their standards. Try
Yeah,
to try to
right.
be as good as them. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not necessarily to beat them. It's not necessarily, how the hell are you gonna beat Alan Moore? You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah, you're
you know,
not Alan Moore.
right.
He's had experiences, he's been through things. He, has a wealth of knowledge that,
Hmm.
we don't have. And but then that's what makes your voice, unique, and that's what
Exactly.
makes it, its own. And like that's the truth for sure. Like, even though I love the way like Hickman structures a story, there are a lot of things I know that I've done in my writing that isn't really Hickman-esque,
Hmm.
Hickman really is uh, the best at plot. Sometimes you feel
Hmm.
like the character kind of loses focus maybe, or he doesn't spend too much time on bringing a lot of like emotional themes up, in his writing. But but with me, I really enjoy, you know, getting to the heart of the matter when it comes to putting two people in a room and like, having them, cry their eyes out, and just be
Hmm.
like totally vulnerable. And I enjoy, just putting it all out there on the table and being transparent with these characters. Um and I mean, I know I take that from other writers, of course. But that's something that I noticed about myself and the kind of style and what I like to do.
No, no, that's awesome. Well, I'll be honest with you, I think Alan Moore, if you've seen pictures of him, he has a big hair.
Yeah. Hmm.
I honestly don't think that hair goes through there. I think he just has a big, huge skull. He just covers
Yeah.
it up.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so you just don't see his massive brain,
Right.
dwarfing the
Right.
rest of us.
He's hiding it for sure.
Exactly. So, um, so I mean, so this is like okay. So this is your third Kickstarter,
Hmm.
right? So now, what do you feel though the lessons you've learned? Like, what was the biggest lesson you learned from your first Kickstarter to this Kickstarter?
Um, I would say the biggest lesson would probably be um, the fact that I didn't put myself out there as much with my first one. And I know the indie communities have definitely grown since, 2017, and
Yeah.
there's actually been a lot more, podcasts and people to talk to. And I think indie comics has grown, exponentially in the last like year and a half to 2 years. But I think with my first book, I just wasn't connecting with enough people enough, and I wasn't on more shows, and wasn't promoting it and marketing it. It's always been really difficult for me to um, be a good marketer, or trying to like pitch stuff to
Mhm.
people. It's always been difficult for me because um, I'm just like, the easy answer, the cop out answer is, like, well, read it, like check it out for yourself. And that's why, one of the reasons I put it out there for free for people to read, because, I wanted people to kind of look at it for themselves. And then if they like it, they'll back the book. But, um, I've learned to get better on the business of things, and like I have Kickstarter down pretty much when it comes to what is going to cost what, and kind of knowing all of the logistics of time frames for when the books will be here, and how many packages am I going to send out. Like, I've done it a few times, so I've definitely gotten better at it. But from the first one, I've definitely grown in my ability to pitch seasons and talk about it, and be enthusiastic. Like, I've looked on like previous videos, or like my first ever Kickstarter video for the book, and I'm just like, Nandor, like, you like smile more, like be more excited, because like I really am excited. Like, I love the story, and I love the book, and I love making comics. But I really am an introvert. I love writing the story, working on the craft, and then being the man behind the curtain, and let the show go on,
Right.
and let people enjoy it. So it's been a hurdle for me to get over that and think more business minded. And like, I've thought about starting my own YouTube channel. I've thought about streaming with Anthony when we're doing the pages together and storyboarding, and how can I grow a bigger fan base and all of that. And so with the first book, it was really diving in headlong and being like, even though we had made some connections and it was out there for people to read, and I'd gotten good, actually some good response from some great artists and writers, it was still, I feel like I probably should have connected more, try to be more involved in the community, get more advice, and get more pointers for how to kind of make things smoother. And then also, I'm still figuring out like the best like ways to integrate stretch goals, and what people want with, like, do they want trading cards, do they want patches, like what do people actually want. So that's something that I tried to get better at with this campaign, and I'm hoping we can get to those stretch goals. But the main goal for me right now is the funding goal is 6,000, but the first stretch goal is 6,500 stretch goal, where we would do like a deluxe hardcover, where the book's going to be hardcover either way, but I'm wanting to do some embossing and some gloss on the cover. And so I want to make the book, the best it can be. And I feel like that's a strong point, that like that's what the backers want too. They want, the book to be the best it can be. And so there's that. And then as we get to the higher stretch goals, we start adding more of that fun stuff, where it's like, hey guys, like, let's do a season sticker, or let's do an enamel pin, and things like that. And so it's just, I'm so focused on the book and making the book, that all this other stuff, I'm like, I don't know what people want, so
Right.
I'm trying to figure that out more.
Yeah, it's always tough trying to figure out what tchotchke people want.
Yeah, right. Like, what are the knickknacks that are like, everyone's fancy? Like, now it's trading cards, and I'm just like, what? Like a trading card for a comic? I'm like, what does that look like? And so it's really interesting to see like what the trends are.
Yeah, it's true. I've done trading cards. I've done stickers.
Yeah.
I think my most successful ones is because I write prose.
Mm-hmm.
And with my series, the Oswald Chronicles, I write, I have the comic, and then what I'll do is sometimes I'll offer up a prose story,
Okay,
as a PDF that's not just news story that I've written. I just had it sitting on the side, and I'll be like, okay, so as a stretch goal, I'll include this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found that works. But if you don't write prose,
Right.
if you don't have that story sitting on the side, so
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to like do a get a comic done. And just let it sit there.
Yeah. Right.
You know? Uh, all right, so now we've been at this for a minute, so we're coming close to the end. We're
Mhm.
not there just yet. I got a few more questions for you. All right, but before we do that, first let everybody know where they can find you, your work, and your Kickstarter.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Facebook, just Nandor Fox Schaffer, and I'm on Twitter at Nandor Fox, and then I'm on Instagram, like I said, and it's at Nandor F Schaffer. Um, all of Seasons is a lot of it is on my website, seasonsthecomicbook.com, where people can read it for free. They can also read it on Webtoon, and they can read it on Comixology, Tapastic. There's a new app that I've been working closely with the creators of the app, Macroverse. That's a really
Mm-hmm.
cool new app for comic book reading. So Seasons is really everywhere digitally. You could find it. I tried to
Mm-hmm.
put it out there for my work, and it's also available, through me directly if people want the physical books, or it's on Amazon too. And
Mm-hmm.
so is Lifeline. Um,
Nice.
and then the Kickstarter launched it October 1st. Right now it's October 23rd, so we're 23 days in, and we're 93% funded, and so we're just shy of the 100th backer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's on Kickstarter. Seasons Volume 2 Summer. And this is the second volume in the planned 4-volume graphic novel series, and it's going to be a hardcover. It's going to be over 120 pages altogether. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, striking black and white art, but it has some colored pages in it. With each volume, we're going to be adding more color to it to
Mm-hmm.
add and convey the narrative of Fletcher trying to find the main character in the story, trying to find purpose and meaning in his life. And there are these really great character moments and these important moments where we're going to be adding color to um, show that in a visual sense of him, you know, finding meaning and purpose in his life. So um, while it mostly is black and white, there's definitely a lot of great stylistic choices. I'm really inspired by James O'Barr's The Crow, and
Mm-hmm.
that book was a big inspiration for kind of the visual style of Seasons and why we went the black and white route. So if anyone loves that, if you love American Gods or Preacher, also J. Michael Straczynski's Midnight Nation is another one that I go to for like kind of comparing the kind of genre it is, because it's really interesting because it's a superhero supernatural story, but it's very kind of slice of life esque in like it being in real time and dealing with real characters and kind of the real world, like a really grounded superhero story.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Sounds good. Um, and now, is there anything that you wanted to discuss or is there a question that maybe you wanted me to ask that I didn't ask you, or a subject you want to discuss that you didn't get a chance to discuss?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I'm really what's really cool about this Kickstarter is it's the fastest growing one I've done.
Mm-hmm.
For my third one, we've really kind of doubled to tripled the momentum of it
Nice.
from my first two. So that's really encouraging, and it seems like there's a lot of people that are coming back for Volume 2 that loved Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
And what's also really neat about this is you can get both Volume 1 and 2 on the Kickstarter, but it's at a discount. So for people that miss Volume 1 and want to catch up, by going on there and getting that, you actually are getting a really good deal too. So it's a really good incentive for people to want to get into the series. And I've had really great recommendations from people like Brian Michael Bendis and Tom King and
Mm-hmm.
also Jason Brubaker. And so it's a really important work for me, and I think will resonate with a lot of people that are struggling with kind of their own mental health, but also what kind of person they want to be, and if they feel like they're stuck in their life. Seasons is a story that I think will help them reflect and think about, what is my next step, and what is who's the person that I want to be tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. All
Yeah,
right,
man.
now, now on to my goofy questions.
All
All
right,
right.
cool deal.
So first, if you were given your choice of any artist, living or dead,
Hmm.
to illustrate a cover for you, who would you pick?
Oh man, I think I would go with. Hmm. Sorry, like I don't want to like hold up the stream or anything. I'm trying to make sure I have a good, like the best answer,
No,
because I
no,
don't want to
that's fine.
regret it when I like if I say a
Uh,
name and then I'm like, oh wait, no, this person.
uh,
Um, I think it would be, man, Alex Ross. I think I
okay.
would want him to do a cover for sure. That would be.
Mhm.
I feel like I'd hit the pinnacle if I did
Right,
that.
right. Well, yeah, because that doesn't come cheap.
Right, exactly. I mean,
That doesn't come cheap.
yeah, it's there. There are comics you would never buy, but it has an
Mhm.
Alex Ross cover, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this.
Exactly. It was like, okay, well, this one time,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You're like, yeah, yeah. All right. Now, let's say you got the golden ticket,
Okay.
and they called you up to the big companies, and they said, Nandor, who, what character, what team, whatever, and it doesn't have to just be Marvel or DC, it could be any of these
Mhm.
companies.
Yeah.
Who would you want to write?
Hmm. Yeah. It would it would be Captain America for sure. That would be my go-to. He's my favorite like my favorite superhero, I think, really, or at least my favorite Marvel character.
Mm-hmm.
And his stories and really what got me into comics. And I've always loved the idea of the man out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like he's someone who doesn't belong in this world, and I relate to that. It's in a weird way, not in the same way of like I'm from the 40s, or but I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone kind of goes through that, and that's something I held on to with his character, reading him, of like someone who in some ways he's an outsider. Like, even though he's the symbol of America, he doesn't really belong in this
Mm-hmm.
in this world as it now is, and he's trying to adapt to that. And even though I'm really young, um, I definitely have that old soul, like, where I love classic rock music. I think a part of it's because of my parents, my dad, but I love, reading real books. I
Mm-hmm.
love, vinyl. I love vintage stuff and old cars and things like that. So I really kind of connect with Captain America in that way, and I love, his how noble he is, and the kind of character, he can withstand anything, really on a emotional, mental basis. He stands tall against the most fearsome odds, and it's just really inspiring.
All right, cool. Fair enough. Fair enough. I like it. I like it. All right, cool. Now I have some comparatives for you. All
Okay.
right. So now I'll softball you with the first couple, and then we'll work into the interesting ones. All right. Godzilla or Gamera?
Godzilla.
Okay. I think you already answered this question. I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Captain America or Batman?
Yeah, Captain America. For
All right.
sure.
All right. Cool. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Okay. Fair enough. Um. Hmm. All right. Jack Kirby or Stanley?
Oh, whoa. Stanley.
Okay. Some of these will come with why. All
Yeah.
right. Some
Okay.
of
Okay.
them. um. Hmm. Let's see. Um. Comics or trade paperbacks?
Comics.
Okay. Why?
Uh, Mainly because that's that's how they started, and I really, even though I love the collection format, I also uh, love the idea of hunting and like hunting for that back issue and going to comic book stores and searching out that issue and collecting it. I love the collector aspect of comics, and um, even though I love having, like I said, like a collected story, um, I love flipping through single issues and feeling them in their original format and how they're originally made. And I would love having the old Kirby, Stan Lee comics, actually as a comic rather than a trade paperback. But the graphic novels and the trade paperbacks are just more convenient, and of course not as expensive.
Of course, yeah.
So there's that. But
Mhm.
I definitely prefer the floppy to the trade paperback, if that was all that I had to choose. I think because that's just how comics were originally, I think, intended, and I prefer that.
Okay, cool. Are you into horror?
Um, a little bit. Like I'm not like
Okay.
huge into horror, but
Mhm.
I definitely I love I love. I think I love more like psychological horror
Mhm.
and kind of thrillers. But there's definitely some great stuff out there, like some new movies like Hereditary or like The Witch.
Mhm.
Like some of those movies I
Yeah.
really love. But I'm like the biggest fan of like M. Night Shyamalan's earlier stuff, like
Mhm.
Signs and Sixth Sense, and of course Unbreakable.
Yeah.
And that whole trilogy I really loved.
Gotcha. Are you into anime?
A little bit. Like
Mhm.
I'm starting to get into it more.
Okay.
I My girlfriend actually is like this whiz when it comes to anime. Like she knows all about it, and so she's been
Uh,
kind of introducing me to it. And then my brother, he knows a lot about anime, and he's been telling me about some good stuff to watch. I grew up on like Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh and kind of those
right.
standard animes that kind of everyone watched growing up.
Mhm.
But I have seen like Akira, and I've seen Perfect Blue. I just watched Weathering with You the other day,
Okay.
and that was really good.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm actually reading Bakuman right now, the manga for Bakuman.
Okay.
It's from the creators of Death Note, and so I've been reading that, and that's been really good.
Cool. Now, all right. Let's get back to some of these weirdo questions. Hellboy or Spawn?
Ooh, Hellboy,
Okay. Kirk or Picard?
Picard,
Okay. Neil Gaiman or Grant Morrison?
mm, Grant Morrison.
Why?
Because I think it's because I've read more of his, but
Okay.
also um, I've he was kind of he was writing Batman at the time when I was getting into comics, and I was really interested in the way uh, he would tell stories, and his whole multiversity event that he did with
Mm-hmm.
all the different universes. That really great Pax Americana issue that he did. Where it was basically, kind of a tribute, not necessarily a tribute to Watchmen, because he doesn't like Watchmen, which I find really interesting. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another reason I like him, because everyone loves Watchmen. It's like the quintessential
Mm-hmm.
comic book story. It's like, how could you not like it? So I appreciate that about him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so different, in the way he writes, and no one really. Um, like I haven't figured him out yet, and that's what makes me really interested. I've really been meaning to read his like memoir that he did. Like I think it's called like Super Gods
Oh
or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I haven't read the book either, but yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
talking
but
about.
yeah, I've been meaning to check that out. And I love Neil Gaiman, of course, and he's written. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and he's written some of my favorite Doctor Who episodes. But I think from a comic book standpoint, I I'm more surprised by what Grant Morrison tries to do and what he tries to kind of explore with his writing.
Okay, fair enough. That's cool. That's cool. Um, Harry Potter or Narnia?
Harry Potter.
Cool.
It's a better story.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's funny because I have had other people say the exact opposite.
Right, right.
Secret Wars or Crisis on Infinite Earth?
Ah, um, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay, cool. All right, we've done a few of these. We'll do a couple more and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. Um, let's see. Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Why?
Oh man, because the lightsaber is cooler than anything in Lord of the Rings. That's one that's one
Uh,
reason. It's the greatest kind of like I don't know like equipment that or weapon that anyone's ever created, or the most iconic. Of course I
mhm,
love Lord of the Rings.
right.
But I I love Star Wars. It really opened my mind to so many different things. When it comes to mythology and storytelling and the hero's journey and kind of the theme of redemption in the story and the generational father and son. I really related to that, and there's a lot of history with that, like with my dad and things. So I
Mhm,
there's just a lot of more, I guess more. I don't necessarily want to say nostalgia because I grew up on Lord of the Rings, but I feel like I've have more history with Star Wars than I do with Lord of the Rings. And I'm actually a big. I'm not really a big fan of Disney's stuff, but
mhm,
I did really enjoy the prequels too. I'm one of the few people who like 1 through 6 really.
mhm.
And I did like Rogue One a lot when that came out, but um, I I like uh, I love the way George Lucas told those stories, and his amount of visual storytelling just like blows my mind every time I watch it. And I could watch those anytime. Like with Lord of the Rings, I feel like I have to be in the mood for it. But with Star Wars, like I could just put it on, like I'm there. I could just watch it anytime.
All right, cool, cool. H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe?
Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's cool. All right, there we go. We made it.
All right,
We made
man.
it to the end.
I love those. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. So please, Nando, one more time, let everybody know where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, I'm on Facebook, Nandor Fox Schaffer. Instagram is at Nandor F Schaffer. Twitter is at Nandor Fox. And my website is seasonsthecomicbook.com. People can go there and read the first volume and also the first half of volume 2 of Seasons Volume 2 Summer. And the Kickstarter is going on right now. It ends November 1st at 9 a.m. Central Time, and we have 8 days left. So it's counting down. We're going into the final week here, so really exciting. We're only I believe it's like $380 away, so we're really close. I know we'll get funded. It's just a matter of time. But I'm really hoping that we can hit some of those stretch goals and that we can, make this book the absolute best it can be. And so yeah, I encourage everyone to check it out on Kickstarter before it ends. And you'll really love what you see. There's a lot of great content on there.
All right, awesome. So there you go. Go check out the book, Seasons Volume 2, and also Seasons Volume 1, also available. It's in the
Yes.
show notes. You get the link is there. So go check it out. So please hit like, subscribe, and share out the video. And I'll be talking to all you guys later. Nando, it was awesome having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Have a good
man.
night.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks. Have a good night, guys. And I'll talk to you soon.